Hi, welcome back to my channel, The Winter Experience. I am yours truly, Winter, and I want to thank you for coming back. This is my second video, so once again, I'm going to ask you guys to bear with me. I am filming this video from my iPhone just to see what quality of video I would be able to get filming from something other than my laptop until I can decide on the camera. But if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't liked my first intro video, I need you to go back to that, like it, leave a comment, feel free to ask questions. Constructive criticism is welcome. I'm not one of those people who are easily offended or can't take any type of constructive criticism. Today I am going to talk about something that people may or may not know about me, and even those who do know, they probably have never, heard the whole story in detail. I am going to go into detail, not too much detail, but I'm going to try not to leave anything out. I do have some notes here that I've taken of the key points that I want to hit when it comes to this subject. I'm going to try not to make this video too long. One thing that I can't stand when I watch other people's YouTube videos is when they drag out videos by, number one, repeating themselves or including, irrelevant details. This is just my story. This was my experience from my eyes. So anybody who may have been a part of this part of my life, I want to go ahead and tell you now, you may not like what I have to say. This is not meant to be offensive to anybody, but this is just, like I said, the name of this channel is The Winter Experience, and this is my experience, and from my perspective may be different from yours. In no way am I going to play victim, and I'm not going to give out any names. Just, the names are irrelevant, doesn't matter. But I'm going to be as honest as possible. This is just for anybody who may be considering going to the military or in the military and, regretting their decision like I did. But I went AWOL. I went AWOL in the United States Navy. And that was a very difficult time in my life. I want to start off by saying that. It was a very difficult time for me. I struggled with what I now know as mental health issues. It was a lot. And I never really opened up to anybody about that part of my life. I mean, I might have told people, I'm a veteran, or I've told people that I went AWOL, but I always said that, told them, the outcome of me going AWOL, and left it at that. I never really talked about it because I'm just now really getting to the point to where I can speak about it without getting emotional or getting angry. And that's how I know that I'm finally progressing to healing from, part of my life that wasn't very good. But, everybody's journey is different, and I appreciate that part of my journey because it's a lot of what made me who I am today. So, okay. I signed up for the military while I was still in high school. My senior year, I was 16 or 17. This was in 2004. I signed up for the military because I knew I didn't want to go to college. Not knocking anybody who did go to college, but I knew college wasn't for me. I never was a person, I hated school. And in high school, I skipped school every chance I could. I was fortunate enough to where my mother would give me money every day before I went to school, and I would save half of the money. I'm not saying do this, but I would save half of the money that my mom gave me to pay a less fortunate, smart student in my class to do my work for me. And whatever. I hated school. I did graduate, but I hated school. School wasn't for me. So I knew I didn't want to go to college because I didn't like school, and I also knew that I wasn't going to get a scholarship, and I was going to have to take out student loans, and it was going to put me in debt, and I knew that wasn't the route I wanted to go. So I also knew that I had to get out of North Carolina. I had to get out of my hometown. I didn't want to end up a statistic in my hometown and just end up getting some warehouse job and getting pregnant. No disrespect to anybody who chose that path, but I knew that path wasn't for me. So, one day, the recruiters was in our school cafeteria, and I ended up talking to him. Excuse me. I ended up talking to him, and showed interest. And when they came to my house one day, they came to my house, and my mama was like, "You went to the military? That's what you want to do?" He talked my mom into okaying it, my mom okayed it, and I was already doing like the meetings and stuff. It wasn't ROTC, but we had to do like meetings and stuff, to keep us on track and make sure we had everything ready. We were preparing ourselves for boot camp was supposed to be, and really, they did a crappy job. I didn't do no type of nothing I was supposed to do. Like, they really did more flirting with me than anything. Like, they never made me do any of the training that I was supposed to do, like the physical training. I never did none of that. They just signed it off on me, which really ended up doing more harm than good. We'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah. So both my parents had to sign in order for me to finally leave. And I set my date to leave. It was like 2 weeks after I graduated high school. And both my parents had to sign, and my dad was like, "Are you sure this is what you want to do?" Like, my mom was like, "Go ahead, go, here." My daddy, though, he was like, "That's what you want to do? Like, are you sure?" He told me, pretty much he was telling me not to go, and I didn't listen, because if you know anything about me, you know, once I have my mind made up to do anything, Jesus himself could rain down and be like, "Winter, don't do it." If I want to do it, I'm going to do it. So he signed it. And I should listen to my dad. Well, I don't know why I keep yawning. I'm sorry. But so he signed the papers for me to go. I remember my whole family, my aunts on my mama's side. I don't think my dad came when I was leaving. I went to go see him. But yeah. So my aunts, a couple of my cousins was there. I think my grandmother, my mom. They all went with us to the airport, and it was very emotional for them. I could tell that they were trying to keep it together because they didn't want to upset me. Because I mean, I wasn't upset at all. I was ready to go. But it was hard. It was emotional for them. They did a lot of crying. They convinced the people to let them come back past TSA so that they could sit with me at the gate and see me off to get on the plane. But like, especially my mom, like I know she was a mess. Okay, so we went. My boot camp was in Great Lakes, Illinois. We went. I think we had to go to like 2 different airports. I don't know. It was just a long trip. It was a long trip for us, and it might have been long because it was my first time traveling without my family. So we went to Great Lakes, and it was cool. You know, I met a lot of people. We all ended up being in a room, waiting for the bus to come and pick us up from the airport. When we got on the bus to go to the Navy Training Center, the petty officers that was on the bus, it was real cool. They was real nice to us, laughing, joking, Then we pulled up to the gate. Listen, when we pulled up to the gate, out the gate outside of the Navy Training Center or whatever, it was like, I don't know why I keep yawning, I'm not even sleepy. It was like Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde. Them people, like, they whole shit changed. They was like, from this point on, you see me, I was like, oh, that moment, that was the moment that I knew that I had fucked up. That was the moment. That was the moment. I was like, what did I get myself into? Okay, so all I could see was my daddy telling me, are you sure? It was too late by then, so we got in, we did all our processing, and it was horrible, man. It was horrible. They was mean to us. We didn't get to sleep for like 2 days. It was bad. It was bad. And I remember there was at one point, I remember the day they cut our hair. My hair was always pretty long, like it was about right here. They lined us up, and they combed our hair straight back, and took scissors and cut our hair. It had to be above the collar. They cut our hair, and they didn't care if they cut it straight. It looked like they was cutting our hair with dull scissors. Like, it was awful. I was like, oh my God. It was terrible. I remember our first shower, they told us, they gave us a sock. And they said, put the sock on your hand and line up. Get naked and line up. So we got naked with the sock on our hand. They gave us a squirt of soap, and they turned on all the showers, and it was like, okay, soap up and walk through the shower. Like a car wash. You know how you drive your car through? Except for we didn't have as much time as they had for the car wash. We had about 30 seconds. If you didn't get all the soap off, then better luck tomorrow. Man, it was terrible. It was terrible. It was terrible. It was terrible. And I have always worn contacts because my vision was terrible. In the military, you're not allowed to wear, well, boot camp, you can't wear contacts. They had something that they call BC goggles. And the BC stands for birth control, which means you don't have to worry about getting pregnant because with those glasses on, nobody is going to find you attractive enough to do anything that would even semi get you pregnant. And they were terrible. They was like big, and I had to wear those glasses. My hair was all messed up. We couldn't do like anything to remotely make yourself look attractive. No perfume, no nothing. And my way of dealing with that was I just didn't look in the mirror. In the Navy, you have something called road guard, and the road guards, they pretty much stop, like standing like the crossways when the division is walking, crossing, or like holding the door. One day, when it was my turn to be the road guard, I was holding the door at the galley for the division to walk in. The door was a glass door. It was like a door, kind of like, it was like a glass door. The whole door was glass. So, it was my turn to be the road guard, and I caught a glimpse of myself in the glass. And I had to take a double take because I didn't recognize. I looked like I felt like Meg Griffin. I couldn't do nothing but cry. I cried. I stood there and I cried. And my petty officer saw me crying, and he was like, he went in on me. Like, he went in on me. It was awful. And like, I was always in trouble. And one thing is, I remember I was always in trouble. Number one was PT. I never passed my PT test, which is crazy because I was like 114 pounds something. But I still never passed my PT test. So I was always in trouble for that. I barely made it. I had anxiety, like I have really bad anxiety. So when it would come down for us to do like drills or stuff like that, my anxiety would get the best of me, and I would mess up. Like, oh, it was terrible. Boot camp was really hard for me. But the thing that made me get it together was, look, you can either get it together, there's nothing wrong with you, so they're not gonna let you leave, or you can stay here longer until you get it together. So I got it together and I graduated from boot camp on time. I did my 8 weeks and I was gone. I used to get so, my anxiety would get me so bad, sometimes I would literally pass out. Like, I would faint. Like, I would hyperventilate and faint, and they would have to call, like, really, I would faint. Okay, so one good thing I will say about boot camp, though, was the food was good. Boot camp food was good. Like, you would think it would be like jailhouse food. No, we ate good. We ate really good. So, I graduated from boot camp. My mom and my grandma spent money to come up there, you know, and get me to watch me graduate. And my division was grad and go, so my family had 30 minutes with me after graduation before I had to go to the airport to fly out from Chicago. And they ended up staying up there after I was gone because their flight I think that flight was like the next day or the day after. So when I left Great Lakes, I ended up going to dental school. I was what was then called a DT in the Navy. I was a dental assistant. So I had to leave boot camp and go straight to my MOS school. They don't call it MOS in the Navy though. I forgot what they call it. But I ended up leaving there and going to Wichita Falls, Texas. Wichita Falls, Texas was one of the highlights of my life. That's one thing I will say. I loved it. It wasn't easy. We weren't allowed to leave the base, but I loved it. I loved Wichita Falls. I also learned how many people can be. I got targeted. For some reason I was always in trouble, and it was never on purpose. It was never on purpose. I was always in trouble. I was always in DRB. I always failed my uniform inspections. My uniform, it was always something wrong with it. I don't know. That ironing shit, I was always in trouble. I was always in trouble. But it got to the point to where I started to feel like I was being pinpointed. I remember one day I got sent to DRB because I had on Victoria's Secret lip gloss and it was clear. It was just, I felt like they was picking on me. They was picking on me. I was known for, it was me, and then I had a roommate, my roommate, who we were best friends, and when people said our names, they said our names together. It was never just, we went by our last name, so it was never just, I'm gonna make up a last name. I'm not gonna say my last name, but let's say my last name was Jackson, and her last name was Smith. It would be Jackson Smith. Smith and Jackson. I remember one day, this is when I knew I was being targeted. One day, she smacked some peaches on the floor in the gallery, and she got in trouble for it. And when they called her down to the chief's office, they called both of us. And so she was being reprimanded, and they turned at me and they was like, what did I say my fake last name was? Whatever. They looked at me and they was like, we know you didn't have anything to do with it, but you need to be down here too. And I'm like, what I need to be down here for if you know I ain't do it? I didn't. They pinpointed us. Because, we didn't really fool with nobody but each other. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. That was good. I still had fun. It was fun. And I remember I used to sneak off the base in the trunk of a car. I had shipmates who was in a phase above me. And I would sneak off base in their trunk. And I would sneak back on base in their trunk. And we would sneak off and go to a club, an 18 and up club. And I would go and party and get drunk. That's back when they used to have the cages in the clubs, and I would cage dance, and I was wild. So my mom was always really strict. She was really strict. I was never really allowed to play outside, and if I did, I had to be where she could see me. She didn't. I used to go to church just to get out of the house. And the church is church is going to be a whole nother video. I'm going to have a whole nother video about church. But, yeah. So, I graduated dental school, dental assistant school. I got my certification. And after graduation, we got our orders. I remember my roommate was going to Spain, and I got stationed in Japan. When I got my orders and I seen that these people were going to send me to Japan, I almost had a nervous breakdown. Mind you, I told you I already was dealing with undiagnosed and untreated mental health issues. And I was cool with being in Texas, you know. I was in the same country away from my family. As much as I wanted to get away, I was still scared. But I was 18 years old, just turned 18, and y'all, I gotta go to Japan, a whole other country. I never left the country. I had never been 2 or 3 cities over with my mom or my grandma or my aunt or somebody, and it was just a thought. It was too much. It was too much for me. And okay, I'm not going to sit here and say I had a nervous breakdown. I was nervous, but I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go to Japan. Sitting back, now I should have went and I wish I would have went, but I don't know. So I told them pretty much that if I had to go to Japan, that I was going to jump off the roof. And they changed my orders. They was like, okay, we don't have anything open in your hometown, but the closest we can get you to home is Paris Island, South Carolina. I was like, okay. That's one of the biggest mistakes I ever made in my life. Paris Island for me was literally hell. It was terrible. It was awful. My mental health continued to deteriorate. Okay. It was awful. It was awful. Now, I forgot to say that when I flew from Wichita Falls to Dallas Airport, from Dallas Airport to North Carolina after graduating, because I had like 2 weeks. I had like a 2-week break before I had to report to my station after graduation from dental school. So they lost my luggage. They sent my luggage to Savannah, Georgia. So I had to go home for 2 weeks with no luggage, no clothes, no nothing. Luckily, I was still small and I could fit in my clothes from high school. And I still had clothes at my mom's house that I could wear. Oh God, this video is almost 30 minutes already. Okay, so I show up to Paris Island when it's time for me to report. They don't have my room ready in the barracks with everybody else, so I had to stay in like the old barracks on the base. I didn't have no uniforms. I didn't have nothing when I showed up. I took some of my regular clothes from my mom's house, and my mom brought me like some more clothes, but I didn't have my uniforms or nothing, so I was already showing up like, it was awful, man. I was always in trouble. I was in trouble. The whole time I was in the military, I was always in trouble. I didn't have a license, so I didn't have a car. So I would ride with people to work, and sometimes I would just walk. I mean, it was awful. So I would walk to work in my uniform, of course, would. I was always in trouble. Period. And I did I acted out a lot. And it got to the point to where I felt like I was being pinpointed so bad that I gave up. Like, I gave up. I did whatever I wanted. I would be late. Like, I would leave on the weekends and go to Savannah, which was like a 20-minute drive, and party and do whatever. Like, I did whatever I wanted. Because I felt like I'm going to be in trouble anyway. I'm in trouble anyway. And a lot of people did and said a lot of mean things to me. I did a lot of foolish things. But I mean, it was bad. It was bad. I mean, there was people who would try to help me and try to talk to me or whatever, and I still have people to this day that I'm cool with that was on Paris Island with me, and you know, a lot. It's some people I appreciate, but I went through a lot. Like, I went through a lot. Like, and this is my advice. If you're gonna go to the military, if you're thinking about going to the military, just make sure that your mental health is in check. Because one thing that happens to you in boot camp is they break you down. They break you down. And if you're already on a rocky ship, it just might tip your ship all the way over. So, you know, just something to think about. This video is already longer than I want it to be, so I'm gonna skip over a couple things. I went to visit Miami with some roommates. I ended up moving off base with some Marines, and I went to visit Miami. I went to visit Miami with them. One of my roommates was a male, and he was from Miami, and me and his wife were cool. So we went to visit Miami for the weekend, and came back, and I had so much fun. I fell in love with the city. I fell in love with the people. I fell in love with, you know, just the energy of Miami. And I was happy. And for like the first time in a long time, I was happy. I had a good time. And we came back. And I remember the morning after we came back, and I was getting up to put my uniform on, and go to work, and I was like, this is not for me. Like, this is not for me. This ain't for me. I don't want to do it. So, I suffered through that week. And I think like a week later, I ended up going back to Miami, because I went back to Miami with some people that I met in Savannah that I didn't know a lot about. And the trip went terribly wrong. I still was in love with the city, but the people I was with, I literally put my life in danger. Like, I sit back and I think, wow. You know, some things happen that I'm lucky that I made it out of. I'm lucky that I made it back in one piece. And I'm lucky that I was able to remain calm. Anyway, so we get back, and once again, that Monday, I'm up, I'm getting dressed, I'm putting my uniform on. After this stressful, terrible weekend that I just had, my life was threatened. It was was putting my uniform on, and I remember I was like, no, no, I'm not doing this no more. I'm not doing this no more. Like, no, I can't. I remember I was thinking, I almost died this weekend, and I cannot spend another day of my life miserable. I refused. So I had one of my roommates drop me off at Walmart. He dropped me off at Walmart. I told him I was going to do some grocery shopping before I went to work. And I called another friend that I knew from Savannah to come and pick me up. So she came and picked me up from Walmart. And I rode to Savannah. And I stayed in Savannah. I think I stayed in Savannah for about 2 or 3 days until my direct deposit hit from the military. And I bought me a Greyhound ticket. I had a backpack with some papers and some clothes. And I got on the Greyhound back to Miami. I had about $1,000. Well, I had about $900. And I went back to Miami. I didn't know nobody down there. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know where I was going to stay. I didn't know what I was going to do when I got there. But I knew that I did not want, everything I was leaving, I wanted it to be left. So I met a girl on the Greyhound, and I got a feeling that you watching this because you're on my social media. I met a girl on the Greyhound who I found out later was a runaway, and she was way younger than me, but she told me that she was older than me. And we was cool. And she was like, "Oh, what are you going to Miami for?" I was like, "I'm moving to Miami," and she was like, "Oh, well, what part? I don't know." Well, who? I don't know. She was like, "Are you serious?" Yeah. I don't know. Me and her ended up linking up, and we still alright to this day. We ended up linking up, hustling, going underground, because by this time, it's a missing persons report out on me, like about a week or two later. The military had shown up to my mom's house. I'm scared to call her. I didn't call her. Like, my family thought I had been kidnapped because my chief found out about the weekend that I had before. And there was a big investigation going on, and I regret putting my mama and my family through that. Them not knowing what happened to me. They thought that I was still mixed up in that situation. I was in reality, I was fine. But eventually I called my mom, and I let her know, I'm alright. And I told her where I was at. And they were like, "You can still come back, there's not a warrant for your arrest yet." And I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back. I didn't want to go back. It wasn't for me. And mind you, I tried to get out legally. I tried all of that, and I feel like everyone that was around me took it as a joke. They took me as a joke, and they took what I was saying as a joke. I was that serious. Like, I was known for being crazy or being like a joke, and I was really reaching out for help. Like, I can't be here. This is it. Like, I couldn't. So, in order to keep from harming myself or harming somebody else, I left. And I don't regret leaving because I did what was best for me. I do hope that the military itself has learned to pay closer attention to mental health and to recognize unconventional signs of mental health issues, because that situation could have ended up really bad. Not only for me, but for other people as well. Anyway, I'm gonna try to wrap this up here. So I left. Me and her, we hustled for a while, you know. Eventually we ended up going our separate ways once we got a little bit more established, as young girls usually do. Whatever happened, I don't even remember. We went our separate ways, and I had my experiences and she had hers. And I eventually ended up getting caught in Hollywood, Florida, with a traffic stop. I was arrested, sent to Broward County Jail, and I was expedited in the back of a rental car from Broward County to TPU in Jacksonville, Florida, and officially processed out of the military, and put on a Greyhound bus back to Miami afterwards. I did not receive a dishonorable discharge. I received an OTH. If you don't know what that means, look it up. And a couple years later, I was still able to get a grant through the military to get my full specialist and esthetician license. And you know, the rest is history. Thank you so much for listening to me and letting me vent, and I hope this video was of some help and assistance to anyone, especially a female, thinking of going to the Navy, or for anyone who may be suffering any type of, indecision in what they want to do when they leave high school, or if you're struggling to get out of a bad situation, or anything. You just gotta take a leap of faith. When I left, I'm not saying go AWOL. I'm saying get help. I'm saying sometimes you have to do what's best for you. And I don't regret my decision to leave, nor do I regret my decision to go. I met some really good people when I was in the military. I learned some really good lessons, and I learned a lot about myself. I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change anything about my life so far. Luckily, I'm in a much better space now. I'm in a much better situation. I have a great life now here in Dallas, Texas. I no longer live in Miami anymore because that also became a toxic situation that I had to get out of. So, yeah, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, turn on your notifications, and I'll be back soon with another video. Hope you enjoyed today's winter experience.